Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Create Above and Beyond. In today's episode, we're going to work on fixing our whole train situation. We're going to start by building a better train for our storage system to live in that's a bit more enclosed and safe, as well as just looks a little more aesthetically pleasing. And then we're going to spend some time at our new base location making a new train station to kind of give us an idea of where this whole build is going and just have a little bit nicer of a place for our train to live. So the first thing I did is I went ahead and took my train back to the station at the old base. And that was because I wanted to make use of the old workshop to craft all the building blocks I'm going to use to build my train and the station. And let me tell you, that was not a super fun activity. So that was crazy frustrating. In that replay footage, you maybe saw 15, 20 seconds of my struggles. That took me about an hour to get from my old base over to here. Just fixing all those tracks, making sure I could actually get this thing through, which is frustrating because it worked. I not only tested it with a test train once, but I also have gone back and forth with this cart before. So I don't know why it's decided not to work anymore. But I think we're going to have to do something slightly different with our rails. So we're going to actually start by designing our actual train car over here by our old base, so we can actually craft up all of our blocks and stuff. We'll also craft a bunch of extra blocks for our train station down at the old base. And then I think what I'm going to do is fix this track layout. So for the last episode, all I did was I just kind of zigzagged through all these hills to just kind of get something that would work going back and forth. Now, clearly that was not the right thing to do for a few reasons. One being, obviously we didn't make it back and forth again, which kind of sucked. But the second big reason I don't think this is going to work out is we have a lot of these diagonal sections, and when we eventually upgrade their rails to be something faster or something powered, those diagonal sections won't work because we can't have something powered going diagonally. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to change our track layout to go straight here and then straight over here to our train station location. And I think that'll be easier to do. It'll actually be the same count of rails, because here we have to go right up, right up, right up, all the way through. Here we just have to go up and then right. So for our actual train car design, I think I'm going to take a little bit of inspiration from the Book of Boba Fett and build a hover train. Maybe is that a little too much of a jump in futuristic compared to our old base? Yes. But I think it'll save myself a lot of time in having to actually build a rail, and I think it looks super cool to have our train kind of floating above the terrain and going all the way through to our mega base. And then at our mega base, if we ever want to expand it or change stuff up, it'll be very easy to kind of make our train go to different locations without having to worry too much about the track layout and how that looks. So I'm going to go ahead and get some materials together, and we will start designing our train car around our storage system. So I spent a good amount of time figuring out a nice block palette for our train. So what I went ahead and did is, outside of our old base, I made a little mock train station, just to kind of get an idea of what kind of size I wanted our train to be and kind of where I wanted our train station to sit. So originally we were going to do it out back of our andesite factory, but kind of looking at how much machinery is in there, it really doesn't make sense because we're not going to be able to get a good pathway from the front to the back. So I decided to pull it out and make its own building, especially now because we're going with a hover train idea. I think it'd be really cool to have a little bit more of a futuristic building over here for our actual train station. For our train itself, I think we're going to use these flint blocks and these plating blocks, and then using these wall base light and these laboratory blocks as some kind of decorative lines going through it, just kind of add a bit of texture to our train body. And then we also have this Tyrian from Chisel, which comes in a few different variants, which we'll probably make some good use of just to kind of help decorate the whole train itself. So I'm going to go ahead and actually probably start with our second car, which is going to be our storage system. So I'll probably take that storage system, get it over here in place, and then build our second car, which will give me a good idea of the scale I'm going to use for the front car, which is going to be essentially like the engine of our train. So my first pass onto the train ended up being pretty good, but I definitely think it could have used some improvement. I didn't really like the rear car, which is where the actual items were stored. I thought it looked a little too industrial. I think the whole thing ended up being a bit too industrial, and at the front of the cart, I wasn't really super happy with the shape. But I figured let's go ahead and go with it, and I decided to send my car off to do a little test loop. Now, during that little test loop, I had a little bit of a mishap, and I ended up not having a working test loop. So I decided to put my train back in the station, and sadly, our rear car got placed where our front car went, and the front car got placed where the rear car was, and it completely destroyed our entire train system. Luckily, it only broke like 2 barrels, so it wasn't too hard to get all of our items back, but man, that was a headache, and I ended up having to completely redo our entire train. And here it is, our completed train. Now, I'm a lot more happy with how this turned out. I like the front end being a little more blunt and almost looking like a bullet. Because it's kind of like a futuristic hover car, I think it actually works out pretty good. And then our car back here where we have our barrels, what I went ahead and did is I put windows here, and then in the back I put these silica steel barrels because I thought they looked really good, and from afar you can instantly know exactly which car this is, that it's our storage car because it's got the barrels there. Then if I ever decide to make a passenger car in the middle, I can use the same design and just do 2 sets of windows instead of a set of windows and a set of barrels. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. On the inside here, it's still quite simple. We do have this line of carpets going down the middle to cover up our radial chassis, because those radial chassis are essentially what's holding this whole thing together. In our front car here, we have our main seat where we can press that button and send off our whole train. And then we have our skylights up here where we can look up into the sky, and then our big windows. So as we're kind of sitting here and going through, we can just watch all the train go by, and it looks really nice. And then coming through here into the back is where we have our storage car. And we have our storage car as well as a few little utility items. We have some trade stations here, which I do need to get power hooked up to. We've got a bed, tackle box, and a little rubber ducky. And then here's where we have our terminal where we can access all of our items, as well as 2 little chests where we can basically store like our personal stuff or stuff that we want to really easily be able to access. And now we're going to move on to the touchy subject of our train track. So what I went ahead and did is I left most of this uncovered so you can get a good idea of what it looks like. I went ahead and made our train track completely straight, so that way anywhere where there's train elevation, which I thought was kind of important for our hover train, it didn't look like it was just hovering a mile off the ground, I have straightaways, and then anywhere where there's turns, I made sure that it was completely flat. And I thought that this would work. Sadly, it did not work. So originally, I did the classic train design where you have 2 of these cart assemblers per contraption. So I had 2 for here and 2 for here, and I did hours and hours of testing. I think I probably spent 8 hours just testing this and having it fail. Now, what's happening is the trains essentially do not play well with slopes, and it got to the point where I do not think that the Create Mod trains are at a point where this will be a sustainable way to have our items and crafting stuff moving back and forth quite frequently. So my solution is to make it a single minecart assembly. So it's going to look quite silly when it actually goes through our system, but all I'm going to do now is I'm basically going to have a single minecart with a single cart assembler attached to the entire train system. So both of these cars are connected with some super glue, so that way the whole thing is just one entire contraption. So that way when I send it off, it'll go over and come back with no issues. It's going to look really dumb, especially around corners and up hills, but it'll work, and at the stations, it'll still look nice. Now, the other awesome thing is that makes our redstone dead easy. All we need is a single redstone link that's hooked up to a button in there where we can press it, it'll send it off, and then when it hits the other card assembler, it'll stop, and then we just hit the button again and set it off on the next redstone link. So That whole redstone part is a lot more simpler, and our whole system's a lot more simpler, but let's go ahead and give it a go and head over to our mountain base. From inside the cabin, not too bad. This really doesn't look too stupid. I mean, it looks a little silly going up these hills, but like around curves, you really shouldn't notice it from sitting in here. But let's go take a look at how this looks from the outside, because I think it might not look quite as nice. And yes, I was correct. It does not look quite as nice. So you can see it kind of like phasing into the ground as it goes down these hills, and when it goes up a hill, it'll just kind of be hovering really high off the ground, and yeah, it doesn't look all that great, but it works, and that's really the important part. The important part is just getting this from point A to point B and having it look nice in our stations. Now as we come to our first real corner, you'll see that back end just kind of swings along with it. It works. From inside the cabinet probably looks fine, but from the outside it does look a bit silly, so we're not going to get any super cool montage of the train working and going through our land. Yeah, and wow, from the inside, curves actually look really nice. Like there we go around a curve. Yeah, that feels really nice. Like that feels really smooth. And I mean, realistically, we're always going to be sitting here going back and forth. So as long as that looks good, I guess it doesn't really matter. And wow, I am really happy with the decision to make that a hover train. Because even just sitting here floating in space, it actually looks pretty nice. It doesn't feel too out of place. I think we'll still get that station built, but you know what? It works. Alright guys, so our first build in our brand new mega base is finally complete. Our train station is done and it's looking beautiful. So I'm really excited for where this is going to take us with the rest of this factory build. And I think this is a really good foundation to kind of keep us moving forward with our project here. Now you'll probably notice two things right off the bat. First is that we have a big open hole on this wall here, and the second is that we don't really have much going on the inside of the building, and both of those things are actually on purpose. The first thing we did is we left this wall open because I'm going to be expanding this at some point when I add more train cars on here. So right now we have room for one more of these same size train cars, and then we'll pretty much be full on this train station. Now I do have plans to kind of extend it to have multiple cars as we go along. So if we want to extend this to have 2, 3, 4, 5 more cars, we're just going to take this train station design and expand it outwards towards the ocean here. Now the other thing we did is we left all these walls blank, and the reason for that is I don't know where the space is going. I have lots of ideas on what I want in the space, but we left all these walls blank because let's say we want a path going out to X place here, or over here we want to have a big machine, or over here we want to have a sky rail that takes us over to the other part of the base. This gives us a lot of expandability and allows us to really change up this area as we see fit as we kind of develop the base more. And that's the same reason I left this roof kind of pretty plain, is because we'll definitely be going straight up from this build and kind of up into the mountains, because right now we're in the foothills. I think this is a great place to start and kind of build up as we go and get up into these mountains. Now for decorations in here, I really did also want to keep it pretty plain, as we don't know what these walls are going to look like and what we're going to have going on in them. The one little piece of decoration I do have is a little staircase to get up into our train, and you can see we're actually using a bed, because beds are the only thing I found that didn't connect to the train. I tried a few different things. I tried shafts, I tried belts, I tried open trap doors, and nothing really seemed to not connect other than beds. So we're using a bed as a little stair here so we can get up into our train. Maybe we'll eventually switch this out for something that looks a bit better, but it works for now. Now, one thing I really didn't focus too much on our train here is expanding our tunnel system here. So obviously we have our tunnel that leads back to our main base, and I only decorated the little outside area to kind of get an idea of what it'll look like eventually. And we'll finish this up at a later date, maybe when we have more cars here and we know better what our final train system is going to look like, because I'm sure that our rails are going to be tweaked and changed a little bit as time goes on. Now for the next episode, the thing I want to focus on is getting a brand new workshop started, because this works going back and forth, but it is a bit of a trek every time I want to go craft something. So we'll definitely be coming up into the hills and starting a workshop in the next episode, so you'll actually see stuff starting to branch out from the train station pretty much immediately. So for buddy cards, I really don't have anything too exciting to show today. I know we only have a few more cards to collect to get to 100%. However, this is all the coins I have to my name, just over a stack. So that can't even buy one mystery pack. So while we wait to get a better supply of coins, I think what we're going to do is we're going to craft up some Farmer's Delight packs with all of these buddy beans that I've been slowly getting from my farm, my auto crop farm that's been going since pretty much the beginning of this series. So we got 2 shiny cards and then a few of the buddy gummies to collect, and we'll just try to 100% fill this out. And I think that's just kind of what we'll do the next few episodes while we wait for more coins to fill out our BYG card set. We'll just kind of go pack by pack and try to finish these off and get 100% of the shiny and not shiny cards. So for anyone unfamiliar with crafting Farmer's Delight buddy cards, because I know it's been a while since we've crafted these packs, basically what you need is you need a cooking pot for Farmer's Delight and a stove from Farmer's Delight. You open up the cooking pot, and then we're going to put in 2 buddy beans, 2 shredded buddy cards, a sugar, and a pork chop or raw bacon. And raw bacon is just simply gotten from a pork chop with a raw knife. I'm just going to use pork chops because I'm a little lazy. I don't want to have to chop those up, because essentially you get 2 pork chops or 2 bacons for 1 pork chop, so it is actually a pretty good deal. Then the last thing you need is you need canvas. So I'll put the canvas in here. You see it'll slowly cook on up. And then when that very slow process is done, you'll have your Farmer's Delight buddy card pack. I've got enough for a stack here, so I will let this go. We'll get these all made up, and then I will open them all and we'll see what we get. And here we go, our 4 stacks of 16 buddy card packs. These took forever to cook up. This cooking pot goes super slow, but just AFK here, let these all craft up, and I'm going to go ahead and open these all up. We'll sort them into our binder, and hopefully we will get our last 2 shinies and plenty more buddy gummies. Looks like already we got our buddy gummy 2, which we were missing, and let's see what else we get. All right, it looks like that buddy gummy 2 and those 2 other shiny cards was literally all we had to get. There are no more buddy gummies that we were missing, and that's our Farmer's Delight set complete. I think that was a little overkill because we got everything finished in the first 2 packs, or 2 stacks of packs, I should say. So we overcrafted a little bit, but you know what? Now we have plenty of extra cards here that we can grind down and use for our create set cards, which I think we'll try to complete next week. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shiny cards to do there. So again, that should be a pretty quick one to knock off the list. And I think that's going to be it for today's episode. Now, I know all we really did was fix our train from last time and build a station around it, but in the next few episodes, we're really going to see this mega base develop, and we'll start to get into Chapter 2.5 and Chapter 3 pretty quickly here, so that way we can finally get to space in a reasonable timeline. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and make sure you hit that like button, make sure you subscribe for more content and to see this base develop, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.